In Acts 27, it says, "So take heart, men, for I have faith in God that it will be exactly as I have been told." In Acts 27, verse 25. Faith is a funny thing, and I confess I often feel like I don't have enough. I often think that the weight of doubt outweighs my faith. And don't get me wrong, I can look back and see many times in my life that God has provided, but there's still doubt. And in Acts 27, we find ourselves near the end of the narrative that Luke was writing as the Apostle Paul heads off to Rome. And as the ship that he is on hits a storm, the people on board seek to find refuge, and they are rightly scared. We can assume that even Paul himself is scared, because in the verses before, God sends an angel to comfort him and tells him of what is going to happen. In this short verse, Paul says something that stands out to me. He says, "So take heart, men, for I have faith in God that it will be exactly as I have been told." Faith is a trust or a dependence on God based on the fact that we take him at his word and believe what he has said. It's here in Acts 27 that we can see yet another example of Paul exercising his faith. But how can he do this? When we look at a narrative, it can be tempting to skip the important question and go right to what this passage tells us about the characters that are in this narrative. But when we do this, we don't answer the question that comes up. How can Paul have such faith? See, the answer to this question isn't found in the first question about the characters. The answer to how can Paul have such faith is found in the first and most important question that should be asked. What does this passage teach me about God? When we look at Acts 27, Luke is going into details about the storm. What this journey is showing us is God's sovereign purposes, and underscores that God can be trusted to fulfill his promises. People often don't survive a shipwreck, yet here is this man, a prisoner heading to Rome, who is standing up in the middle of the boat saying to these men of the ship that they won't die, that they will reach Rome without any loss of life. The fantastic thing is that as we continue to read in this narrative, Paul's words to the men are true as they become shipwrecked on an island and no one dies. See, Paul had taken God at his word even as the storm dragged on. And these verses and these professional sailors began to have this meltdown. God has shown that Paul can trust him and depend upon him over and over and over again. So when God tells him something is going to happen, Paul can take him at his word. For you and for me, it's another example of how we can trust and depend on God during the storms of life. This narrative shows that God is the true actor behind the scenes. He is sovereign and his purposes will be accomplished. Paul acts as the messenger of God's promises. As God displays his glory through Paul, Paul acts as a witness to the greatness of God. How is God using you to show his greatness? Are you, as you trust him and depend on him during this hard times in your life, even the good times? I've been thinking about this a lot lately, even as I try to figure out how I can connect with my neighbors. How can God use the storm that I am in to display who he is to those around me? Before that, though, I need to answer that question: is why can I trust and depend upon him in the storm? How has he shown me in my life that he can be trusted and depended on? There is a danger, though, when I just look at my own experiences in my own life. The problem is that they're just mine. Those experiences may be something that God uses to bolster my faith, but still ultimately he gives me his word, and his word shows me over and over and over again that I can trust and depend on him. Now, I have hundreds of examples of people who have trusted and depended on God. But life isn't going to be easy. All of these examples tell me that. The pandemic is not easy. Working from home is not easy. Not seeing family is not easy. Homeschooling your kids, or for some grandkids, is not easy. But we do have a God that promises to use all the circumstances we face for His glory and for our good. We just need to trust Him. And when we feel we don't have the faith, ask Him for it. Open up His Word and let Him remind you of the many examples of how He has shown that He can be trusted and depended upon. Let Him display that through you and declare it to those that are around you. Let Him, through His Word, by the power of the Holy Spirit, bolster your faith. So take heart.